everybody, and welcome to our channel Frugal Queen in France, and welcome to Wednesday and a midweek money chat. And every Wednesday we open our homes and we share thrifty and frugal tips with you and ways of saving money. If you're here for the very first time, welcome. I'm Jane, my husband Michael is behind the camera. We're early retirees, debt and mortgage free, and we live here in Brittany in France. So let's take a look at what we're going to have a chat about this week. So this week's midweek money chat is all about food and how we're going to stretch our budget to eat well, because we don't have any more money, do we? We're still going to the supermarket with the same amount of money. We can't magic money out of thin air, can we? But we've still got families to feed. We still have to eat healthily, and we still have to do our best. We do have to make changes. We do have to make cutbacks. So this week is all about those ways in which we can do just that. Let's get started on our list today. The first really important ingredient to have in our store cupboard is the humble rice. And we often think of rice as just something that we have on the side, something that we just have with curry or we have with chili. But actually, rice can be a main component of our meal. We all love paella, don't we? We can have vegetable paella, or we can add just a tiny amount of meat or a tiny amount of fish to paella. Risotto. I was very, very late to risotto. Where has it been all my life? It is just the most super comfort food, isn't it? Egg fried rice. Look it up, please, everybody. Egg fried rice is a fantastic meal all on its own. Now, if you're British or you're French, you will be very familiar with rice pudding. It's simply rice cooked in milk with a couple of teaspoons of sugar. It is amazing, and that kind of creaminess to it from the starchiness of the rice. You can then take it, you can have it cold, you can put it in little individual pots, take it to work and give it to your children for lunch, or just eat it yourself. I'd even say it'd be good enough to eat as a quick grab and go breakfast. If you like your rice to be a bit different, there's lots of different types of rice. I just go for a standard long grain rice, or I go for a whole grain rice because I particularly like that nutty taste. But either of those will be good in any rice dish. The second ingredient that we all need to be bulking our meals out with is the humble potato. And often we think of potatoes again as just something we have on the side. If you're British, you will know the potato can be the meal in itself. And I'm talking here about a baked potato. Stick a potato in the oven, have a few baked, you can warm them up later in the microwave. A baked potato and baked beans, a bit of cheese on top, some tuna, some mayonnaise on top of your baked potato. We all know that, don't we? That a baked potato is a meal in itself. Anything that you have left over, whether it's a stew or vegetable stew or anything like that, and you stick mashed potato on top of that, all of a sudden it becomes a lovely meal in its own way, doesn't it? You stick leftovers in baked potato, stir it all up together, form little patties and fry that. That is the beautiful British bubble and squeak. I'm looking at my list here. Have I missed anything at all? You add little bits of meat left over to potatoes. Roll that in breadcrumbs. That is a rissole. It's a wonderful way to use up baked potatoes. Cooked potatoes, I beg your pardon. And if you're going to steam potatoes or you're going to bake potatoes, leave the skins on. Even if you're going to make your own fries, chips as we British people call them, just wash them and cut them up and leave the skins on. Most of the nutrition is just under the skin. and the flavour. Can't miss that one out, can we? The humble potato. The next ingredient, and if you were to open my pantry, you would find plenty of them there, and I'm sure they are in yours too, and that's beans. It doesn't matter if it's tinned beans or dried beans or however you use them, they are such a versatile thing to have. We particularly love beanie burgers. We really do love them as well. We like to take beans and mash them down and make them into refried beans and make them spicy. We absolutely love those with homemade corn tortillas. We really love beans in soups and stews and casseroles. It's the absolute go-to as well. And it's also one of those things that if they are on offer in the supermarket, whether they're tinned or dried, it's something that a little bit of a tiny budget stretch that you can put away and use, and they are so incredibly tasty too. The next one are pulses, and that's anything in the pea family. Things like lentils and chickpeas, some people call them garbanzo beans. These are again another massive favourite in our house, and I'm going to have to refer to my list here because I've got so many of them here. Again, we use them to thicken stews. We add lentils to anything with meat in it, so we can use half the meat and halve the cost of it and add lots and lots of flavour and protein as well. We love to make lentil wraps. You can see the link to that below. We make them like a lentil pancakes. We absolutely love chickpeas. One of our favourite things to have is falafels. Another absolute favourite thing of ours to have is hummus. If you've ever had hummus in a baked potato or on toast or with vegetables, it is absolutely fantastic. Neither chickpeas or lentils are expensive in any way at all. They're fantastically tasty, and they really are things that we always keep in the house to really stretch our food budget. So much an ingredient, but it's an idea, and it's something that we have weekly, if not twice weekly, and that's soup. Soup can be thin soup, thick soup, you can put anything in soup. You can start with a vegetable or a meat-based stock cube and just add anything you like to it. Leftovers can go into soup, and soup can be made from leftovers. We've all taken that chicken carcass or those chicken bones or that lamb bone, and we've all cooked it down until everything falls off it, and we get that delicious stock, which is a superb base to make those soups from. We've got those lentils at hand, or those chickpeas or those beans, and we can add them in. We can add in any vegetables at all. It's great, it freezes, it's superb to take to work in a flask or to reheat really easily. So soup is just one of those things that you add that in a couple of times to your menu in a week, or even have it as a starter so you don't need so much for your main course. But it is a great thing to have, and it is a massive way to save money on your food bill. Ingredient, and yes, you can use it as an ingredient to have in your house, and it will save you a ton of money, is bread. Now, not just for sandwiches and toast, it can be a huge part of lots and lots of meals. If you have your bread, please don't waste it. If you're coming to the end of it, stick it in your freezer. You can then toast it whenever you want and make croutons from it. Or you can take that bread and stick it in your food processor and make breadcrumbs from it. There are so many ways in which to use breadcrumbs. You can take your croutons and add those to salad. You can sprinkle them on soups. The humble sandwich can lift any meal. Now, what we call a fried sandwich in the UK, Americans call a grilled sandwich. But we would take cheese and put it in a sandwich, put it in a pan, butter it, heat it through so it's nice and crispy, and have that with soup. And that is a fantastic meal. Never think that the humble sandwich can't be a meal, because it can be. Ever since we've discovered the sandwich toaster, anything can go in a sandwich. It's fantastic heated up. I'm going to bring this up into shot now. There we go. A great thing to look out for is part cooked bread. This was really cheap in France and it was really cheap in the UK. So look out for it wherever you live. And these, that's not just a baguette, is it? No, 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 no. That's a pizza base. That's anything that you want to use to cook something on top of or in. You can make your own meatballs and put it inside with some tomato sauce and put a little grated cheese on top. But don't just think bread is for toast in the morning. Bread can be a really good money-saving, budget-stretching part of any meal. Now the next one are casseroles and stews. One is the same as the other really, isn't it? One is meat in sauce, in gravy, cooked in a pot on top of the stove. And one is meat or vegetables in some kind of sauce, cooked in the oven. Now I know Americans, a casserole is anything cooked in a casserole and put in the oven. British people, it's pretty much meat in a sauce or vegetables in a sauce. But those casseroles, those quick and easy to make, and then just stick them in your slow cooker or pop them in your Instant Pot, are absolute budget savers. Anything can go in a stew or a casserole. You take a couple of stock cubes, you stick some vegetables in there, maybe the tiniest amount of meat if you want that, stick it on to cook slowly. It's a meal. Add that to the baked potatoes, the rice, or a bit of crusty bread, and it is a good meal. If you've got at home some chicken, some sausage, anything like that, stick that word plus the word stew or casserole in it into a search engine on the internet and you will have a multitude of options. But stews and casseroles, probably the most humble things that we cook, and yet so cheap and so tasty. One thing that we particularly really love is any kind of stew to which you add any kind of butternut squash or pumpkin, and it just melts down in it and it gives it that richness and sweetness to it. If you have a sausage casserole, for example, it's a way of taking maybe 4 sausages and turning that into a really hearty meal for everybody. Those tins of beans that can be added to those sausage casseroles, and anything that can go in there. If it's in some kind of gravy, you can eat it with a spoon in a bowl, or you can add it to mashed potato. It's probably the most humble, easiest thing to cook, and it really will stretch that food budget. My next go-to is pastry. Pie crust, some of you would call it. Because we British people will tell you anything can go in a pie. Now I know Americans love to have fruit and dessert in pies, but British people, a pie is the main meal. A pork pie, a steak and kidney pie, a chicken and mushroom pie, a steak and ale pie, all of those things. They sound quite luxurious, don't they? But actually, it's a little bit of meat going a long way and feeding the family. I would say half a pound of meat in a pie would be pushing the boat out. It really would be. But if we put corned beef and vegetables in a pie, we just make vegetable pies. Anything can go in a pie. Anything can go in a quiche, which is egg in pastry, cooked in the oven. Anything can go in that as well. And pasties. Pasties, we think of the traditional Cornish pasty, which has beef, swede, also called rutabaga, onions, really sweet beets and onions, and that's it. And it sounds very, very simple, but it is wonderful and it is delicious. There's going to be plenty of links below to things like pasties and pies that I have cooked in the past. Anything can go in those pies. If you have any stew left over, that can be added to a pie. If you have, as we call it in the UK, any mince and onion, so it's basically minced beef, onions and gravy, we add a few carrots or we add a few potatoes to that and we stick that in a pie. And it's a great way of using up leftovers. Get them in a pie, stick that with a bit of gravy. It makes a superb, cheap and easy meal. The next cheap, easy and affordable budget stretcher are eggs. And they are not just for breakfast. Eggs can be a great part of breakfast or lunch or your evening meal or your go-to snack or your sandwiches. They are fantastic. A great thing that we really love to eat is quiche. Take off the pastry, you've got a frittata or a crustless quiche. We love to take boiled eggs and just have them cut up and sliced with salad. Boiled eggs, hard boiled, cut up, chop them into pieces, add a little bit of mayonnaise to that and stick them in sandwiches. I can't speak highly enough about eggs. We British people love an egg custard tart. So we love to just take a ready-made piece of pastry that we've made basically and make a tart from that with a really delicious egg custard with that. French eat that too. They really love an egg custard tart too. But don't think that eggs are just for breakfast. They are superb at any time. Remember that meal on toast? Many a British person's come home from work and had scrambled eggs on toast as a really good evening meal. Great, filling, cheap, quick and easy. Eggs, they're not just for breakfast. The next one on my list are green vegetables. Green vegetables have as many nutrients in them as many of the fruits out there. And if we are having to cut back on our shopping bills, we're not buying so much of the fruit, where are we going to get all of those nutrients from if we're eating those green vegetables? Not only are they fantastically versatile, but they are absolutely delicious. If you see my cooking, my frugal food on Friday, you'll know that about half of my plate is green vegetables. They are so cheap, filling and tasty. The humble cabbage can be eaten in so many ways, whether you're cutting it into steaks and roasting it, whether you're steaming it or sauteing it or adding it to stir fries, or taking that cabbage and adding it to soups. It is just so versatile. Take things like Brussels sprouts. One way to ruin Brussels sprouts is to overcook them. A great thing to do with Brussels sprouts is slice them very thinly and saute them. They really are superb like that. Another way with Brussels sprouts is roast them. But whatever you do, do not overcook them. We like them very lightly steamed with a little bit of crunch on them too. The next one is broccoli or calabrese, or here we have different types of broccoli. So some of it is purple sprouting broccoli. It's wonderful, lightly steamed, but add it to your stir fries, add it to your quiche, add it to your pasta sauces. It is fantastic. The next one that we all love, and it is so versatile and you can use it in so many different ways, is spinach. Spinach is one of those foods that you can hide from children because it just shrinks. You can add it to mashed potato, you can stick it in your stews, you can just wilt it down. We absolutely adore spinach and mushroom in anything as a combi, whether it's in a creamy sauce with pasta or to have it as lasagna with or in lasagna. But really, green vegetables, when it comes to the nutrients you're going to get from them, from the amount of money that you're going to pay from them, they are an absolute winner. Food prices are high and they're going up, and we all have to get a little more creative. And may I add, we all have to be a little less fussy, and we have to drop any food snobbery too, don't we? We have to fill tummies, we have to home cook, and we have to do the best we can. Our budgets have not gone up, so we have to stretch them as far as we can. I really hope that you found that list useful. Is there anything that you would add to that list? Leave me a comment below. We hope you like this video, and if you do, we ask you one thing, is give it a like. It helps the algorithm and to get our videos out there. Thanks to everybody who's a subscriber, and if you're not a subscriber, go on, join the family. Just leaves me to say, on behalf of Mike and I, thank you to everybody who watches, likes, comments and subscribes. We'll see you again soon. Goodbye for now.